Can you show me some of these old photos? What are these photos of?
Oh, let me just go back. This one is a photo of us right after we were married. We were in Oklahoma for a family reunion, and these are pictures of our wedding. And then and this is a picture of our, you know, the parents at the wedding. I don't really have a whole lot from back then. This is a picture of my daughter, Chrissy, when she was a baby. And that's that's me and Karen in our wedding photo.
Still hard to look at.
I miss her so much. I remember the way she tastes, you know, and you never get that back. It's hard.
And I mean, all these years that have gone by, you still have those vivid memories of her.
We had, she worked for me. I ran a convenience store and a hamburger place. It was called Big C on C King Parkway. And I made her the manager of the hamburger place while I managed the convenience store. And then she implemented uniforms, and she looked so cute in her uniform. But we had plans to have our own store one day, and I ended up, Mr. Quarter, the man that owned the company, owned the stores. We had 7 stores. I managed 3 of them. He made me vice president of the company, and they sold all the stores, and they sold me a store. He set me up in business in '84. And '85 came around, and the oil crunch hit, and everything went. So I ended up losing the store. But had she been there with me, we wouldn't have lost the store, or we would have made it. Mm. You know, I needed somebody like her to make it. And I was married at the time, but my second wife was vice president of Woodforest National Bank. So, she didn't get involved in the store the way Karen would have.
Right. Tell me a bit about how did y'all meet?
Oh gosh. So she was a good friend of my younger sister Brenda, and she used to come spend the night from time to time when she was 10, 11 years old. And I remember telling Mother that, I was like, I don't know, Mom, that girl is pretty homely. And Mother said, Randy, you just wait. Over the next few years, this girl's gonna grow up. And I remember there was a party at Robin Strunk's house, one of our friends. And I went to the party, and I came through the garage door, and when you open the garage door, it goes into the kitchen. Well, Karen was standing there talking to her friend Ramona Merrill, and I didn't know who she was. I couldn't believe the difference, And I said, hi, it's Randy Douglas. And she goes, Randy, this is Karen. I said, Karen Harper? She goes, yeah. I was like, whoa. So I stood, we talked for about an hour, you know, in the kitchen, and then I got her number. And I asked her out. She wanted to go see a movie. I was like, okay, you know, I was like, what's showing at Parkway? And she goes, I don't go to drive-ins. And I was like, I didn't know Parkway was a drive-in. It was the only place I'd ever been to a movie. And she wanted to go see What's Up, Doc at a theater on Westheimer. And I, you know, that was 74, maybe 70, yeah, it was 74. They didn't have GPS or anything.
Right.
I didn't know how to get there. She knew exactly how to get there. She told me exactly how to get there, and we went to the movie, saw What's Up, Doc, and you know, we never stopped dating.
Y'all were high school sweethearts.
Yeah. I had a few years before, I got my hand stuck in a motorcycle chain that cut this off. And on Valentine's Day, I would cut a hole in the box of a candy and stick it up through there and put ketchup on it. Scare the girls.
Aww,
so
that's funny. So, can you tell me a little bit about what happened? What you remember about what happened leading up to her death, and how your recollection of everything?
Well, I worked at the store. I cashed checks at Big C. And it was a Friday afternoon. I think it was late December. I had to go to the bank and make a deposit. And she was at home with Chrissy. And some guy knocked on the back door and said, this is your neighbor Jay. She asked who it was. He said, this is your neighbor Jay. And when she opened the door, he came in and she ran out the front door. She was able to get away that time. And she ran down to a neighbor's house, and her and the neighbor came back, and the guy was gone. Chrissy was in her bassinet in her bedroom. And she went to my mom's house, and she stayed there, and they got a hold to me at the store and told me so. I went to mom's, picked her up, and took her to her mother's house. And she stayed at her mom's house for a few days, and she's like, I'm not living my life like this, you know, because I had to leave at 4:30 in the morning to get to the store and open it up. And at that time, I was between stores. I cashed checks at Big C, but then I ran Homestead in Little York. We had a store in Homestead in Little York, so I had to be there at 5 o'clock. And she didn't like getting up, you know, and me taking her to her mom's that early in the morning. So the Tuesday that it happened, we'll back up. Her birthday was on January the 4th. Which was a Sunday that year. And we had the Lord's Supper at church. And then that Tuesday morning, I got up like I normally do, went to the store, opened it up. I got the receipts and deposits, got the deposit ready to go. And Karen was getting ready to take Chrissy to the doctor for her 3-month checkup. And I took the deposit to our office, which is on Robert E. Lee, which is right around the corner from the house. So I stopped by the house on the way back to the store to check on her and see if everything was open. She was fine. She was getting ready. And then I went back to the store. Tuesday was grocery day, so I was putting up groceries. And one of the guys that worked for me, his name is David, the phone rang and he answered it and he goes, ma'am? You know, and he said all of a sudden the phone went dead. And I said, well, who's that? And he goes, I don't know, some woman screaming. And the store was at Homestead, Little York, and it's a pretty bad area. So one of my other employees, Kenny, said, well, it's probably some guy beating up on his wife. And it was about 11 o'clock when the phone rang again. It was my mother-in-law. And she had gone to pick Karen and Chrissy up to take them to the doctor. And she told me, she was hysterical. She told me that Karen had been stabbed and she was dead. I got in my car and I drove as fast as I could to that. I beat the cops there. So when I walked in, I saw there was blood everywhere. She fought really hard. And when I saw her, I knew she wasn't in there. So the detectives came and they asked us to go outside. It was cold and rainy. And my neighbor that lived to the right of me had moved in a few months earlier. She asked us to come in. So me and Miss Harper sat there for about an hour. Mr. Harper showed up. My brother showed up. And then the detectives asked me to come back in the house. They fingerprinted me because I lived there. They needed to. And when the detective fingerprinted me, he looked at my hand and he goes, when did you do this? I said, I did it when I was 15. And he goes, probably saved your life. I was like, it didn't register at the time why he said that. But they wanted me to walk through the house, so we went into the bedroom, and you could tell there was a struggle on the bed. It was all messed up. And we went into the bathroom, and as I was coming out of the bathroom, because that's where it started, was in the bathroom. I walked out of the bathroom back into the bedroom, and we had a water bed, and it had like a chasm behind it. And I looked down on the floor and I said, there's her pistol. And I bought her a little .32. She was a good shot with it too. But the safety was still on. And the detectives looked at each other and they said, we can't believe we missed this, you know. So they got the gun and they, you know, picked up there was a ski mask on the bed. And they saved all the evidence. Now, I was told by Harris County that the DNA that was gathered that day, or the evidence that was gathered that day, was in good shape, and that it was still in good condition. So, you know, we've been hopeful all these years that when DNA got to the point to where they would be able to identify that you know, they would be able to pin it on somebody who would know who it was. So.
Did they ever identify a suspect?
Not that I know of. I mean, there was one of the detectives told me that there were 2 other murders in the area that fit the same MO, and they had a guy in prison for those 2 murders, and that they were going to use the DNA and test him. They never told me one way or the other, you know, whether they were able to match that to his or him or not.
When did they say that? Was that right after?
No, okay. No, that was probably 6-7 years ago.
Okay. Whenever the first time when someone broke into the house, did they steal anything?
No.
Was there any type of description of that person?
Karen described him. He was not a very big person. Probably, she was 5'6", so she said he wasn't much bigger than her. So he might have been like 5'8", but she said he was cocky, and she called him a punk. You know.
Did that person have a ski mask on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So pretty interesting that the person that broke in, you know, how long was that before?
It was probably a couple of weeks.
Couple weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, pretty interesting that that person was also wearing a ski mask. And was she home alone at that time as well?
Yeah.
Where were you at that time when the first incident happened?
I was at the store cashing checks, or I was on my way to the bank to drop the deposit off. I don't know exactly what time that happened, but.
Yeah. And after that, you were like, you're not staying home alone.
Right. And she was pretty adamant. I took her to her mom's when I left to go to work, but she told me, "See, I'm not living my life like this." You know.
And that was the first day that she stayed home by herself since that happened?
Actually, it wasn't the first day. It was probably the second or third day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said that you got her a gun. Did you get her a gun after that first incident happened?
No, it was before.
Okay.
You know, I took her over to my mom. Mother had 2.5 acres, and I set up target on a pine tree and showed her how to use it, and she was good with it.
Yeah.
She was a good shot too. You know, it was close range.
Yeah.
It's not a very big gun, but.
But typically, you would take her to her mother's in the morning with Chrissy, just so that she wasn't by herself all day.
Right. That lasted probably 10 days.
10 days.
No?
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was Chrissy when Karen was killed?
She was in her car seat on the bathroom counter in our master bathroom. And when Karen was getting ready to go to the doctor, I guess she was putting makeup on or something. But that's where the fight started. Was in the master bathroom.
Was Chrissy hurt?
No.
And how did her mom know to go over there? She was planning to take her to the doctor?
Yeah, she was taking Chrissy and Karen to the doctor's appointment.
So what was the time frame between the time you left in the morning to the time that her mom came to pick her up?
I stopped back by the house on the way back to the store. I don't know, it might have been 8:30.
8:30?
Yeah, and then her mom was supposed to pick her up around 11, I think.
So within 3 hours, or what do you think the time frame was that, you know, the incident happened?
You know, I don't remember, but it was Karen that was calling the store for me. That when David answered the phone, that lady that was screaming was her. I'm sure of it now. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't put two and two together. It might have been 10, 15, something like that. I don't know.
And you're sure of it now that was Karen on the phone?
Yeah. You know, like, why would she call me? You know, I wish she would have called 911, you know.
Yeah. I mean, throughout the years, have there been any leads at all anything that
Nothing substantial that I know of.
And how has that been? Just knowing that you still, all these years later, don't have someone in custody.
You know, you move on with your life. I mean, you have to. You have to let go of the past. And then the Bible says to do that. We were studying Sunday school not too long ago about Lot's wife looking back, you know, and God told him, don't look back, you know, but Lot's wife turned around and looked back, you know, and that's been the kind of the theme for me is it's too painful to stay there in that, you know. I got married again. I let my second wife adopt my daughter. After the adoption, she filed for divorce. Got Chrissy in custody, and then I married my third wife, who was also named Karen, and we were married for 30 years before she passed away from COVID 3.5 years ago.
So sorry. And what about Chrissy? How old was she when Karen died?
She wasn't even 3 months old.
And I mean, what has that been like for her, not being able to grow up with her mother?
You know, she never knew her mom. My second wife, Diane, is her mother. I mean, she's the only mother that Chrissy ever knew. And Diane's phenomenal mother. You know, so Chrissy's really lucky in the fact that you know, she has a mother in Diane.
Yeah. Do you see parts of Karen Lynn in Chrissy?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, she's very, very smart. And Chrissy is she's a really good mother. She's got a teenage boy and a teenage daughter. She keeps her house spotless, you know. She pours her life into her kids. Yeah, so yeah. I mean, she looks more like Miss Harper than her mother. But I do see, you know, similarities in their mannerisms and things.
Yeah.
Has you ever done anything and you're like, oh, that's your mom?
Yeah. Anything that's like really is like, oh, that's Karen.
There's a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you miss the most about Karen Lynn?
Just her being there, her kids. I know she was my best friend. She was the only person I really wanted to be with, you know, at that time. You know, there are a lot of times I look at my brother. He's been married over 50 years, and my best friend, him and his wife have been married 40-something years. You know, and I'm grateful, you know, that they have that. And I wish I would. If she hadn't got killed, we would be together. And I wish I would have been able to have that with her, like they have with their wives. Yeah. But you know, it's not the way it worked out. So.
I mean, DPS, they've now said that they've increased reward for $6,000 for any information. What do you hope can happen now? I mean, all these years later, do you hope that someone just sees this and says, oh, I remember that?
Yeah, it's been 44 years. So it's, you know, I'm grateful that DPS is putting the 6,000 out there to see if someone would come forward with information, regardless of whether the person's alive or not now still. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, having the case solved would be helpful. I just don't see it happening.
You've lost hope.
Yeah. I mean, 44 years, you know. If the person's even still alive, who knows?
Do you think it might be the same person that broke in that first time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, in retrospect, I mean, looking back, even back then, you know, I should have done more to secure that back door. Because That's where he busted in through that back door, and that back door was flimsy as all get out.
Both times?
Yeah, the first time he knocked on the door.
Oh, okay.
But the second time he just forced his way in.
And she had never seen him before. I mean, his face was covered.
Yeah, not that I know of. But she saw him the second time when he killed her, because she grabbed the ski mask and took it off.
Right.
When they were fighting on the bed.
Yeah. And then I know detectives mentioned that there were several other home invasions in the neighborhood. Was it in the same neighborhood?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It was in the area.
In the area? Okay,
Yeah.
but not the same neighborhood. Okay. Were they murders as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how many there were?
2, as far as I know of.
2? Okay.
I know there were reports that someone was looking in people's windows back then as well. So.
If you could talk to Karen right now, what would you say to her?
I thought I love her. I miss her. You know, I wished I didn't have to live my life without her.
Yeah. I'm sure you felt like you had your love story kind of figured out, you know, the day that you got married and had Chrissy, and then everything just changed so soon. How long were y'all married for before this happened?
See, we got married in '78, and that happened we got married June the 2nd, '78, and that happened January 6th, '81. So a couple of years, 3, 4 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years.
Is there anything that you would say to that person that did this to your wife?
Yeah. Why? You know, how can a human being kill another human being? It makes no sense to me. Why? You know, I mean, if he found Christ, God might forgive him, but I wouldn't.
You could never forgive him?
No. Not for taking my life, changing my life the way it did.
And there was no one that was out for you and your family or anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Did they steal anything the first time or the second time?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Yeah.
No, he didn't come there to rob. He came there to rape her, but she fought too hard. But she wasn't raped. Regardless of what, you know, anyone might say, they told me she was not raped.
Right.
She was stabbed 78 times.
78 times.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Oh, gosh. Have you been in contact with investigators, you know, recently,
No.
anything like that?
No, I want to say 6, 7 years ago, my son-in-law, Chrissy's husband, his cousin worked the cold case at Harris County, and I spoke with him. He was the last one I've spoken to, though.
What do you want to see happen?
I want justice. You know, I want the guy to be found. It's not going to change anything, but at least, you know, we would know who did it.
Is that something that still sits in your mind
yeah.
every night, you know?
Not every night,
but
yeah.
regularly you think
Yeah.
about who is this person?
Right. Yeah. You know, there's special dates, you know, like our anniversary and her birthday, and then January the 6th, which just happens to coincide with the January 6th debacle. Christmas.
And I'm sure with Christy growing up, I mean, even though she did have a mother figure I'm sure that was hard thinking about, certain things that you watch a mother and daughter experience together, and not seeing it with Karen. So,
Karen didn't get to experience her grandkids. Then they're awesome kids,
Yeah. Do you see any of Karen in the grandkids?
Oh gosh, my granddaughter, spitting image of her grandmother.
really?
It's like Chrissy is a lot like Miss Harper. Mackenzie is a spitting image of her grandmother.
Wow. What is that like?
It's kind of scary.
Aw.
Yeah, I mean, her looks, her height, her build, they're like they could have been sisters.
That's really special.
And Karen, I pointed out Karen was smart. She would have been valedictorian of her class if we hadn't been dating in high school. She was very smart. And Mackenzie, my granddaughter, is too.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add or say, or any lingering questions you still have about all this that you've always wanted to get answered?
I just want to know who did it and why. It don't make any sense. You just take a life for no reason.
I'm so sorry.
You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to let it go. Because, you could drive yourself nuts.
Yeah. I feel like I would if I was you too. That would be something that would be hard to forget.
Well, I focus on work. I still work. I have a good job. Solved some major problems this week and got a pat on the back for it. So, I mean, that keeps me going, keeps me driving. My cars keep me busy too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I know that this is a lot. Anything else that we didn't touch on that you think is important for us to know, like about what happened or anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we got it.
We covered everything.
I think we're good.
Let me get so just sort of stay in that position there. You were showing your finger. Actually, I do have a question. He mentioned your finger. Why did he mention your finger?
Yeah. Why did he say it saved your life?
There was a bloody handprint on the garage door of the left hand, and it was a full left hand. So I had done this 8 years before then. So
Otherwise, they may have looked at you as a suspect.
yeah. Oh, they put me through hell. Detective Bokel, he was the detective that was on it years later. I was outside washing the boat. Him and his wife pulled up, and he introduced himself, told me he wanted to interview me in his office. We set up a time for me to go into his office, and then I went and he asked me to take a polygraph. I said, sure. So we went to the FBI's office and I took an 8-hour polygraph. And 2 hours into it, the guy came back in and said, I told him you didn't do it, but he has to be sure. So on the way back to his office, when I got in the car, I was mad. He said, I won't stop till I find the person that killed your wife. And I said, that's all I want. And I'm pretty sure he's dead now because he was 72 44 years ago, or 42 years ago, because he didn't start the case until a couple years after.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had this case for a while. I mean, what's been your opinion on how they've handled it?
I don't think I can say that on camera. It's just shoddy police work, man. It had to have been. I mean, some punk got away with murder, and they can't figure out who did it. With the fingerprints, I mean, the guy must be some kind of genius. I don't know. You know what? I'm not bashing Harris County Sheriff's Department today.
Right.
But the Harris County Sheriff's Department back in '81, I didn't have any confidence in them at all.
Why is that?
Because they screwed the case up. I couldn't find this one guy, you know, with the evidence that they had. I don't know. I don't think it was that important to them, and just didn't do a good job.
I'm so sorry. Well, hopefully we can get the word out and at least maybe bring some light to this, or, you know.
Yeah.
And
That'd
maybe
be great.
somebody's still sitting there with the guilty conscience, you know.
That'd be great.
You said there was still DNA, and I know Zach's done a story about
Ortham.
Othram, I think is what it's
Othram.
called, up in the woodlands. Have you thought about like getting them involved, or did you?
No, I don't know. I don't know where the DNA is. I don't know if Harris County has it or if the state of Texas has it. I think the state's working on the cold case, so they may have it. But nobody's called me. They have my number. I know they do, because I haven't changed it since '90. I got the number in '96, so they've had it. It'd be nice if they would, you know, give me a call. But, you know, I can. My nephew is a retired Montgomery County sheriff deputy, and he kind of helped by talking to the state to get them to take a look at the cold case too. That was about 4 years ago.
So the state's taken over the case from
Yeah.
the county. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your confidence that the state can do anything?
I'm sorry?
What's your confidence that the state can get it?
I was real hopeful when they took the case, because I thought they may be able to make some progress on it. And you know, when they told me that the evidence was kept, you know, really well, and that the DNA was good, you know, that I was hopeful that they would be able to match it up to somebody.
Yeah.